Hi, we're at Rory Cowan Studios again for the second round of his questions and answers for his fans. And here we go. So let's
Bring
start.
it on, right.
Josh Dutton from Mrs. Brown's Boys UK fan club. She goes, "Hi, I would like to ask Rory Cowan, what has been your favourite scene and why?"
Josh, hello, how are you? My favourite scene would be the Mankini one. I loved it. It was just great fun to do. It was terrific fun. I knew that wasn't going to be cut out of the movie. I knew it was going to be a very funny scene. I knew the audience were going to really love that. And what I loved about doing it was, well, it was a shock to me really. I was wearing a swimmer's hat, if you remember, and there was plastic flowers in it. I had goggles, I had the mankini on, and I was covered in this stuff that looked like goose fat. And we had to keep doing the take again and again and again, because we did it a few times anyway. And people were walking along Jollymount Beach where it was filmed, and they were walking with their dogs. And I thought it was alright, nobody's going to recognise me. And as they were going by, I'm standing in the mankini and all the other paraphernalia on me, and they said, "How are you, Rory?" How did they recognise me with all that stuff on? But they did, and that was my favourite one anyway. That's by a mile, that's the one that stands out, the mankini scene in the movie.
And Anna Monaco from Mrs. Brown's Boys UK fan club asks, "Hi Rory, would you ever do a chat show?"
I would do a chat show, but I wouldn't want to do my idea wouldn't be a celebrity one, because I would not. I don't know. It would want to be something. I would love to do a chat show with ordinary people, like somebody who does something for organised a charity group or something like that, or somebody who walked a huge distance for a charity, did something unusual. More so than a celebrity chat show thing, because most of the celebrities, they're only on plugging something that they're selling at that particular time. So I would love to do something with ordinary people where there's a backstory and where you could talk to them and you could chat about. And I think they're the most interesting ones. It's like if you're in a pub and you meet somebody, you can have a great night just talking to a stranger. You find out about them, they find out about you, and it could be a good night. So that type of a chat show I wouldn't mind doing. A celebrity driven one, I don't think so. But there you go. I haven't been offered.
And Maggie Fagan from Rory Cowan, Rory Brown fan page asks, "Hi Rory, do you ever get up to the north of Ireland in your travels?"
Maggie, we do get up to the north of Ireland. We used to play in Derry every year in the Millennium Forum, and that was fantastic. Now the only place we play up there is the Odyssey, though I think the name of it's been changed or something, but the Odyssey in Belfast, because that's an arena. And remember years ago we did try to get into Belfast, and we rang the theatre up there. I can't think of the name of it now, so it doesn't matter. No, the Odyssey, that's the only place up north we play. It's like Dublin is the only place down south that we play as well. So 2 venues in Ireland, one in Belfast, one in Dublin. That seems to be it, unfortunately. But we do, yeah, we'll be back up in the north of Ireland in Belfast next year, 2017, around the end of the year. We'll be back up there, so hope to see you then. Bye bye.
And Anne-Marie Warwanskowitz from UK fan group asks, "A question for Rory Cowan, will Mrs. Brown's Boys tour come to Hampton, UK anytime soon? Thanks."
Hampton. I don't know where that is. We're probably going to come to the city nearest it, the big city near that. It would be the same. We've played most of like Leeds, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Newcastle, London, Cardiff. We've played Birmingham. I think I said Birmingham. We've played the big cities. So whatever is the big city near you, the chances are we are coming. Hampton, is that what it was? Hampton.
That's right, Hampton.
Hampton. I don't know where that is. But I'm sure.
Hamilton.
Hamilton. Sorry, Hamilton. No, the only Hamilton I know is in Glasgow. So if that's the one, we're in Glasgow, just down the road. No, whatever the closest city is, that'll be it.
And Stephanie Cooper from Rory Fan Group and Christine Jones from UK Fan Club asks, "Have you ever considered writing your autobiography? And would be a great read. Apologies if this has been done. I've looked, but I couldn't find anything. Kisses."
No, I haven't written an autobiography, but it's something I'm thinking about, and not really an autobiography, but part autobiography and part fiction. I want to start it. I have the plan. It's going to start off on the 17th of March 1973. That was when I went to a concert in the National Stadium in Dublin. Slade were playing. Patrick's Day and Slade were playing. They were probably the biggest band in the world at the time. And a guy who turned out to be a great friend of mine, he tried to hit me over the back of the head with a chair. Until he recognised me from school, and then we got over the next few years, the adventures that we got up to and the things that we did. I can't believe we got away with half of it. So I have an idea to base it on that, but then to take in some fiction things as well. I have to find a publisher though. Hopefully somebody would want to publish my book. But anyway, there you go. I'm thinking of it, but again, it's been on the long finger and stuff like that. Maybe I should get down to doing it now. Okay.
And Heather Batham from Rory fan page asks, Rory, are you ever tempted to take the tea towel from Agnes and give her a whack?
Heather, you are joking me. If I took the tea towel from Mrs. Brown and hit her a whack, that would be the last day of my life. For the simple reason that Mrs. Brown, she rules the roost. She's like all the mothers, all the mammies. They rule the roost. And grown men would not take a tea towel from their mother and hit the mother with it. It just wouldn't happen. It would not be acceptable. The toughest men in the world, their mother can give them a clip round the ear with a tea towel or with their hand or something like that. They will accept it because they know that it's coming from a place of love. They would never dream of hitting their mother. The only people that do that are cowards. No, you wouldn't take the towel off Mrs. Brown. And if you try to answer her back, if you went off script and tried to play and answer her back, like, she'd demolish it altogether. So no, you just have to accept what comes from Mrs. Brown, because you know that she loves you. She loves all the family. Now, hope that answers your question.
And Sandra Shaw from Rory's fan page asks, along with Billy Thompson from the UK fan club, Rory, if you could play any other character in Mrs. Brown's Boys, who would it be and why?
That's simple. Buster. I love that character, Buster. And Danny plays him so well. So I wouldn't be able to play the part of Buster. I couldn't do that. I can't imagine anybody else playing the part of Buster, but he's my favourite character in Mrs. Brown's Boys. I love him. I absolutely adore that character. And Danny plays him to perfection. Buster is the lovable rogue. We all know one somewhere in our lives. We remember this lovable rogue that always got into trouble without meaning to get into trouble and just couldn't see the outcome of his actions. That's Buster Brady. I just think that's a brilliant character, brilliantly played by Danny, and just brilliantly written. I mean, that guy, he's perfect. That would be my favourite character. And
Debbie Kellner in Nova Scotia asks a double-barrel question, and she's from Mrs. Brown's UK club. Rory, you were a sales and marketing manager before, so how has your fame helped you, and have you made things happen that you've always wanted for you and yours? If so, what?
Well, that's a weird question. I was very lucky in my life insofar as when I was 17, I worked in a record shop that EMI owned. I had the best job in the world. I was doing something I would be getting paid for. I was being paid to do something that I would have done for nothing. Listen to music all day long. So because I had a passion for it and I loved music and I was really into the bands at the time in the 70s and stuff like that, within 7 years I was the marketing manager of the company. So I had a job I loved and I was able to get promoted very quickly in it. It wasn't like a job to me. It was like the best thing that could happen. It was like the best hobby in the world. Then when I was made redundant, I was taken on by Brendan O'Carroll to be his publicist. Brendan was doing stand-up at the time. And I moved on in that very quickly because I thought Brendan was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And so it wasn't like a job. It was just great fun. And so I was moved on. Then I was promoting gigs. I was doing the marketing and stuff like that, and that was wonderful. And then an actor left to become a train driver, and he was playing Rory, and Brendan said, "You're at the show every night, Rory, you know the lines, you're on tomorrow night in Liverpool." And that's how I got into it. So I've been very lucky in the way things went, but I also think it's my attitude as well. If you're going to do something, try and be the best you can. If you're going to take on a job, don't just treat it as a job. I remember Brendan always said that if you were a road sweeper, try and be the best road sweeper in the world. And I understand that and I get that, because if you do that, people will notice, and you won't be the road sweeper for very long. You will be promoted. And it's the same with my jobs. I was lucky to fall into jobs that I loved. I've only had 2 employers, Brandon O'Carroll and EMI, and I was very lucky with both of them, because I've gone to the top in both of those, and they're totally different careers. But that's the way it goes. Do the best you can at whatever you're doing, and you will get promoted and you will move on up.
And Dawn Ryan from UK Fan Club asks, question for Rory, other than Mrs. Brown's Boys, what's your favourite TV sitcom? Kisses.
Now sitcoms. I love the British ones. I'm not mad about the American ones. I love the British ones. I loved The Vicar of Dibley. I loved Absolutely Fabulous. Are You Being Served? There's so many fantastic British sitcoms, and they're part of my history as well. Like, I remember going back to the 70s and stuff like that. And the British sitcoms, they make me roar laughing. The good ones, they really make me roar laughing. And that the American sitcoms, I don't know. The British ones, they seem to be more into believable characters. The American ones are unbelievable characters, and they don't ring true. There's still, some of them are still funny, but I mean the British ones, I think, for me, are just streets ahead of everybody else's. I love them. So hope that answers your question.
And Freddie Thomas from Rory fan page and Mrs. Brown's Boys UK Fan Club asks, I read a while back, and is there any truth to the article about Brendan doing a sitcom on Rory and Dino in Wash and Blow, or was it a rumour?
No, that wasn't a rumour. Brendan said it, and he has a great idea and he wants to do it. The only thing about this is, if you look at any other sitcom, you'll see about 20 writers, bang, 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 written by or contributed by, blah, blah, blah. But Mrs. Brendan is the only writer. Brendan writes everything. If there was going to be a sitcom with Rory and Dino, Brendan would write it. The Christmas specials, Brendan writes them. And then he stars in them as well. So that means that it's going to take longer to do something than if you have like 10, 20 writers working on a project. So it will happen if Brendan writes it, and another movie will happen when Brendan writes it, and if there's a new TV series, it'll happen when Brendan writes it. We're all it has to go at Brendan's pace, because he does everything. He does the whole lot, the whole shebang. All I can say is, if he writes it, and if he writes another movie, and if he writes another TV series, the rest of us, we'll all just be available to do it. There'll be no discussion about it. If Brendan was to say, we're doing another series now, we're going to be starting that in a couple of months, we'd say, fine, that's grand, and that would be the way it is. And if he writes a series based on Wash and Blow, that's perfect, I'm ready to do it. But it's all down to Brendan, and I'll just go along, because he's never steered us wrong over the years I've been working with him. So whenever he's ready to go, we'll be ready to follow.
And we have Gemma Louise Dakin from Mrs. Brown's Boys UK Fan Club on Rory fan page. It's my dream to become an actress. What advice would you give?
Now, if you want to be an actress, go for it. But first of all, I remember somebody said this and it made perfect sense to me. If you want to be an actor or an actress, first of all, you have to be an audience. You need to go to everything that's on, wherever you're living, whatever comes, go and see it. You'll pick up loads of tips from seeing other people, how they do stuff and how they portray something. But also, because you're in the audience, the theatres are going to be busier. So you have to go to everything. Because if the theatres are busier, there's more jobs for more actors and more actresses and stuff like that. You don't become an actress and then just have no work coming in. So first of all, you've got to become an audience. Go to everything and watch everything and learn from everything, and then that'll be fine. After that, then you take it to the next step. But that's the first thing you need to do. Good luck with it. I think you'll be great. Go for it. You might as well. If that's your passion, if that's your dream, if that's what you really want to do, go for it. Yeah, that's my advice.
And Karen Colvin from Rory fan page asks, Rory, how do you put up with all the slaps you get off Brendan on the show?
You have to. It's part of the script. The slaps, we know they're coming sometime, but we don't know when they're coming, because if I was to know a slap was coming before it even happened, I'd be like that. I'd be anticipating it, because it's a slap, so I'd be like that. So Brendan never tells us. So a slap comes, it comes. And that goes back to when we were all kids. Our mothers used to slap us with whatever was there. It could be tea towel, could be something she had in her hand, or it could be the back of her hand. And that's the way it is. And Mrs. Brown is one of those mothers that if she sees something wrong, or the kids are all still 5 and 6 to her. So if they do something or say something they shouldn't say, she'll hit them with the tea towel. And I wouldn't take that out, because that's a part of it. And kids especially, they love that. They keep asking me these questions. Does it hurt when you do that? So it's become, people notice it, and maybe it reminds them of their own home, or when they were younger themselves. I don't know what it is, but it's brilliant, and I wouldn't change that at all. It does hurt though, but it's all right. It doesn't hurt too much. It's like your mother when she hits you. She doesn't hit you to really knock you out. She just hits you to let you know, don't do that again. And that's all right.
And we have Sue Humphreys from the Mrs. Brown's Boys.
How are you, Sue? I know Sue.
And your Rory fan page. And she says, if you could step back in time and be an invisible observer for a day, what era and century would you choose and why?
Oh, that's a good question, Sue. Let me see. I'd love to go back to Tudor times. I'm a big fan of history. I love history. And the Tudor times I'd love to go back, especially the Anne Boleyn time, from the time Henry VIII married her to when he had her executed. There's only a few years. Like she was only married for 3 years when she was killed, but he probably knew her a couple of years before that. So maybe we're talking about 5 or 6 years. He changed everything. England changed completely. They broke away from the Catholic Church. Just so much things happen. Like today, if there's changes, everything takes forever. It takes a long, long time to go. I mean, we've even seen it with Brexit, where they voted to leave, which I don't particularly agree with, but anyway, they voted to leave, and it's going to take years before Britain actually... Everything takes so long. Back in that time, in the Tudor times, Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn time, things changed like that. And I would love to have been there just to see how it changed so quickly, and what happened when it changed so quickly, how people were able to keep up and go along with it. That time would have been an exciting time for me to live in, I'd say. Thank you.
And we have Suzanne Kerr from Mrs. Brown's Boys UK fan club and your Rory fan page. She asked, who is your favourite band?
The Beatles. Without a shadow of a doubt, I just love the Beatles. Every single thing about them. When you listen to their first single, Love Me Do, and then you go right up 8 years, just over 7 years, they were together. And the difference of how they developed, it was just amazing. No band has ever moved that quick in such a short time. And the difference between them, they were allowed to experiment, they were allowed to do what they like. Today, bands don't do that. The record companies have so much control that if you have a hit with a certain sound, they want you to just keep repeating that. And they don't really give acts a lot of scope to experiment, and to, like, you'd need to have hits coming for years before you do that. The Beatles, straight out of the traps, they were changing the music. No 2 singles were the same. No 2 albums were the same. They were just brilliant, and they brought the rest of the world along with them, and all the other bands in the world along with them. I just thought they were brilliant. I still listen to them. They've been broken up now nearly 50 years, and I still listen to them every day. They're fabulous. And
we have Heather Wilson from Rory fan page and the Mrs. Brown's Boys UK fan club. She asked, would you ever leave Mrs. Brown's Boys to return to your music career?
Now Heather, in case anyone doesn't know, she's the one that puts up a photograph of me every single day, my smiling Rory picture of the day, on the internet, and I love them. Would I ever leave Mrs. Brown's Boys and what?
To return to your music career?
No. I wouldn't leave Mrs. Brown's Boys for anything. It's the best job in the world. The music career, I was only the marketing manager in EMI. I was working with the big acts, and at the time I did like it, but to go back to that, no, I wouldn't. I would have no interest in doing that. Mrs. Brown's Boys, the live shows and doing the filming of the TV Christmas specials and stuff like that. I'm in a place in my life where I'm really, really happy with the career I have. There's no better career for me. There's nothing I could think of that I would like to do more than what I'm doing. I love Mrs. Brown's Boys and I love being in it. And no, I'd never leave that. I really wouldn't. They're going to have to drag me. It's going to have to... Mrs. Brown's Boys, if it was to disappear, I would still be there until it was just gone and dead and buried. It's not a case of me saying, oh, it might be on the skids or something like that. If that was to happen in the future, I better bail out before. It would never happen. I would stay with Mrs. Brown's Boys right till the very, very end. Love it.
And we have Doreen Nelson from Rory Cowan, Rory Brown fan page. She asks, what is the hardest part to film in Mrs. Brown's Boys?
The hardest part to do, like on the live shows, it's grand. You walk on a stage, you get to where you're supposed to be, or in and around to where you're supposed to be. It's fine. The audience will follow you with their eyes. On television, it's and film, it's much more difficult because you've got to hit a mark. And I'm blind as a bat, so I'm always saying to the director, I'm saying to Brendan, wherever I've got to go is make sure it's somewhere where I can hit my hip off. So that's where I stop. Otherwise, I can't see where to go. And if you're just a little bit off, the camera is a little bit off, and then you've got to go again. You've got to do another take. So finding where you've got to be. It's also slower because if I'm talking to you like I'm talking now, there could be a direction to say, okay, Rory, you say something. Then we have to see a reaction from the person you're talking to or another person who's there. Then the next person delivers their lines. So it's an unnatural way of speaking. But you have to do it. And if you're running somewhere, or if you're charging in the back door, you have to slow it down but make it look like you're flying, because you can't, the camera just couldn't keep up with you if you were running at full speed. So everything about it is different. Where with the live show, just barge on through the door and that's it, and you end up sitting at the table or wherever you're supposed to be. And once you get in the general direction, you're okay. But general direction doesn't work on film. You've got to be very specific where you stop and when you say something and when you give reactions and stuff like that. So it's a much different discipline, but I like it. I prefer the live shows though.
Jean Stubbs from UK Fan Club asks, Rory, why does Agnes always hit you and Dino with the tea towel?
Agnes, I always get Mrs. Brown doesn't understand the gay thing. She understands that Rory's gay, but it goes over her head. She doesn't get it. And she wants Rory to be happy, and if Dino makes her happy, well, that's fine with her, but she doesn't understand it. So if Rory says something to Dino that Mrs. Brown doesn't understand, she's going to think, oh, what did they say that? Stop, don't be saying that, don't be saying that. And that's like most mothers. They would be the same. They have their family as their world. They want their kids to be happy. Outside of that, they don't understand an awful lot of, especially if it's a family and the child is grown up, the mother loves it, they're not going to really, a lot of the time, understand the gay thing. They do their best, but they don't, and generally, they don't sort of get it too much. So if I was to say something to Dino, Mrs. Brown would probably just, what are you saying, blah, 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 and that's it. But it's fun, I love it, it's great fun. It's just so, Mrs. Brown's reactions to Rory and Dino are hilarious, so it works.
And we have Sandy Roberts from the UK Fan Club, and Sandy asks, when Mrs. Brown catches you with her tea towel, A, is it planned, and B, does it hurt?
It does hurt. The tea towel does hurt, but it only hurts like somebody hitting you with an elastic band. You know, that type of thing. If somebody was to flick an elastic band, it only hurts like that. But it gets the reaction. And as I said earlier on, we don't know when it's coming. We know it is coming. Because as I said, if it was to come, your instinct automatically, mine would be just to cringe or to try and block it or do something. So when you don't know what's coming, it hits you, and then you get the reaction you're supposed to have. So Brendan is very aware of that. So we could be doing in the middle of a scene or something like that, bang, ooh, and that's it. But it hurts a little bit, but it doesn't hurt. It's only like someone hitting you with an elastic band. It's fine. I don't mind it. I wouldn't change it.
And we have Karen and Jess Taylor-Stewart.
Karen, who runs my page, and Jess, who's one of the administrators.
And they are from both administrating the Rory fan page and the UK Fan Club, the Miss Brown Boys UK Fan Club. And when you were 8 years old, was it true you got punched in the face by your teacher for singing Cliff Richard's Congratulations and Not an Irish Song from Eurovision? And P.S. we love you, Rory. You can sing Eurovision for us anytime. We love a bit of Eurovision in our house.
I love you, Karen and Jess. You're doing a great job with my fan page. Yes, it is true. In my day, when I was about 7, Cliff Richard was in the Eurovision and he came second with Congratulations. It was beaten by 1 point by Spain. The following Monday, we were in school, and I was always a kid that was singing. I loved music. And the head Christian brother came in and he said, did anyone see the Eurovision? A load of hands went up. And he said, Cliff Richard beaten by 1 point. And he said, does anyone know the song? And my hand shot up. And he said, do you want to come up here? Now the bastard sent me up. do you want to come up here and sing it? So I was delighted, any excuse to sing, and we weren't going to be doing Irish or maths or whatever else, we were the chance to sing. So I stood up and I went, congratulations and celebrations. Bang! I got an unmerciful punch into the side of my face. And I remember everything went black, except for, then there was like a tiny little dot, which was like a pinprick of brightness, and it kept getting bigger and bigger into circles, and it kept going out like that, and more dots were replaced and more circles. And it was the only time I was ever hit that I saw stars, 7 years of age. And there was 48 in our class. It was a big class and a big room, and I knew the punch had thrown me right across the classroom, because when I was getting up in the dark, I still couldn't see in the darkness, I could feel the radiator, the heat of the radiator on my hands. So that was it. So now I know that guy, that teacher, apparently he died. So every time I see Cliff Richard on the television and he's back in the charts or something, I always say, fair play to Cliff, you're here, we're here, that bastard is gone. I shouldn't say that, but he did. That's a true story. I was 7 years of age and I got punched, bang, spark out I was nearly.
We have Teresa Og from the UK fan club and the Rory fan page, and she's from Virginia, USA, and she asks, what's the first thing you noticed about Brendan O'Carroll when you met him, and what was that?
The first thing I know, the first time I saw Brendan, I was in EMI and I went to a show he was doing in a pub. I went with a friend of mine. I didn't particularly want to go, but I went and I thought Brendan O'Carroll was the funniest guy I had ever seen. Now, I'd seen comedians before that, going back to the 70s, Billy Connolly and everything like that. Brendan O'Carroll, I thought I was just going to pass out. I was laughing so much. And he still has that effect on me. Like when I'm on stage with Mrs. Brown and she goes off on one, I have the best seat in the house, and that's why I laugh all the time. I think Brendan and Mrs. Brown, but Brendan, on stage, there is nobody that comes near him. Nobody. He is the funniest man I have ever seen. And when I met him, it turned out he's probably the nicest guy I've ever met as well. So it's the luckiest day in my life I met him. I've had a wonderful career with him, and I've had a lovely friendship with him, and I just think the world of him. And he's one of the most kind, genuine, generous people I have ever met in my life, as well as being the funniest person I've ever seen in my life. And I'm there every night when he's doing it, and that's why I'd never leave this job. I go to work and I roar laughing. I have the best night ever. Thank you.
And we have Sue Smith from the UK fan club, and she asks, my question is, what is it like to work with Brendan?
As I just said, Brendan, it is brilliant. There is never a day that we're back. Like I'm missing. We're on a break at the moment. I'm missing everybody. I'm missing Brendan. Brendan lives in Florida. I'm here in Dublin. So when we come back in October to film the Christmas specials, I am going to work like, yes, this is brilliant. Fun is starting now. Even though it's hard work, it's going to be great fun. We're going to be all meeting up together again and stuff like that. And usually when we meet up, like we'll be on a tour or something like that, after a few months, it's like a family. We start to bicker and whatever like that. Nothing bad, but we might bicker. But then as soon as you're home and you're just thinking, after a few weeks or a few days, I miss the bunch, I miss them. And that's the way it is. I can't wait to get back working with Brendan. It's going to be amazing. I love it, and I just know that there's a future in it as well. It's not just going to stop tomorrow. Something drastic would have to happen. But until that does happen, I have the best job in the world. I love it. I'm so happy.
And finally, our last question. And we have little Callum Gregory there.
Hello, Callum Gregory. How are you?
And Callum would love to know if Rory likes football and who he supports.
I love football. I'm no good at it. I never was any good at it because I was always a bit delicate. Like if a ball ever came near me, I'd be going, but I do like football. I'm going back to the 60s. Georgie Best played for Manchester United, and he was the superstar of football. He would be like the Ronaldo, but even bigger. There was nobody to touch George Best in the 60s and early 70s. So I always seem to have a support for Manchester United. Always did, and I always won. I love to see them winning. I love to see the times with David Beckham and stuff like that back in the early 90s. They were just amazing years and stuff like that. Manchester United, they always seem to deliver something that's spectacular. So yeah, Manchester United. I hope that's the team you like. If not, I like Manchester United. I like whatever your team is as well. Let's support them. Thank you.
So guys, look out for the next time we request more questions, and there'll be a week in order to get them. So, and also like Rory's new fan page, his public fan page as well. So it's goodbye for myself, and it's goodbye of course for Rory.
Bye bye. See you soon. See you on tour next year.